All right, here we go. We are streaming, I do believe. If anyone can hear me, please let me know if the sound is coming through okay. I want the sound and the music, well, my voice and the music to not overpower each other. You might be hearing the music dying down because that's what it actually is doing. All right, here we go. Episode 2. I run 8 games. And this is a kind of a just chatting, kind of a D&D style, although I guess it would be worth it to change that. I guess it would be hard to do. Tags. I don't know if I can tag this as D&D. Oh, most importantly, I need to say something about this on Twitter. And it might be that I have to do this on my phone as I usually do, because to do it on my computer while I'm doing all of this business would be crazy. Okay. So let's do this. We're going to tweet. Come listen to me talk game prep for my 8 games. Let's specify 8D and D games a week. Exclamation mark. Now then we do twitch.tv/Elven Wizard King and tweet. Okay. There we are. We're here. We're doing this. So I'm going to talk about the 8 games a week that I prepare for. Let's see. I'm going to talk about the prep that I'm doing for them. I'm going to talk about how the previous game went. Time and viewership permitting, I will answer any questions anyone has, whether that's about my games or about advice on their games, perhaps. So if you are interested, please ask questions. I am open to them. But all right, let's start. Game 1. So we have been doing Lost Mines of Phandelver, LMOP. That one has been going really well. So we are in Wave Echo Cave. Previously, we discussed how we were going to integrate out of the Abyss. The players have been really keen to pursue this kind of vendetta / love-hate relationship with Sugtamoy. Whatever. So we're going to continue to extrapolate upon that. So obviously a very the players are invested. There has also been some activity from Yinogu. Man, why do they make these Demon Lord names so hard to spell? Maybe just so you don't accidentally summon them, I suppose. Also involved potential for a conflict between Z and Y. Let's just call them. So, players will finish Wave Echo Cave tomorrow. Now, so yeah, we play. This is my work game where I run a school club for my work for the school that I work for, and we do 2 games a week. We do Monday and Tuesday. So obviously today being Monday, we played the first game. We're in the middle of kind of the final battle the boss battle, if you will, of Wave Echo Cave. Tomorrow we will finish it. So that's kind of a slam dunk. Tomorrow's not going to be difficult, so tomorrow, easy. We'll finish the camp. We'll finish the battle. There'll be some epilogue to that. Gain all benefits of Wave Echo Cave. And they'll get the... I don't want to have them go through the rest of the cave and fight other stuff, because that's kind of tedious for the fact that the main tension was on defeating Glassstaff, which in this case I made Glassstaff into like this half Illithid monstrosity, but that's not relevant as much anymore. That whole thing will have been resolved. Although Glassstaff half Illithid tie in with Underdark. Maybe make known that Illithid colony has learned of player... No, let's say they learned of Wave Echo Cave through Glassstaff. So that's going to bring the characters into the Underdark. Whether or not they want to fight against Zugtamoy, which I know they do, they also have to protect their games, and if they're going to protect their games, they have to go into the Underdark now. I guess Underdark is capital U. Alright, so we've got 2 good reasons for a group to go into the Underdark. There I go again. Proper nouns, people. Alright. So that makes it easy. I think the last time we discussed the idea of whether or not we were going to have the group start in Gracklstugh. No, not Gracklstugh. In Glitter... well, heck. Blingdenstone. Or that other place that was like the bug market. So I think we like the idea of Blingdenstone. We're going to tie in Blingdenstone by having a teleport pad from Phandelver, or let's just say what, Wave Echo Cave, to Entomoc's Boon. And that makes sense because I want to say that it was either a gnomish or dwarven... Oh, well, Entomoc's Boon was like a gnomish or dwarven stronghold at some point where Entomoc was worshipped and all that business. Blingdenstone then has a connection to Wave Echo Cave because both were built by either dwarves or gnomes or a combination of the two. Easy peasy. That'll get them a good way in and out of the Underdark, but also they won't feel the compulsion to leave the Underdark until they fulfill both of their... in fact, let's just write that down. Group compelled to stay in UD, we'll just say UD for Underdark, until both objectives complete. Objective 1, see, neutralize Illithid colony. So that could be, I guess Illithid is 2 L's, just the dictionary doesn't recognize it, no surprise. And I guess we should write this in. Either steal info, which could be really fun, via mind jack of Overlord. No, actually, steal info stuck in tadpole. So they have to find a tadpole and kill it to remove the information that would lead to the Illithids going to Wave Echo Cave and using it for whatever. Or maybe I will have them, or destroy colony. The destruction of the colony is less likely but could be endgame of out of the abyss. So let's say they summon demon lords on colony. So that would be the perfect way. They would do both things at once. I don't want to introduce that idea to the player characters because that would be cheating. It would be like it would kind of rob them of their agency if I was like, hey, do this thing. But as you know, sorry, these are spoilers for Out of the Abyss. But at the end of Out of the Abyss, all of the demon lords that have been summoned magically and let loose on the Underdark, the preferred way, or the kind of the canonical way that they're destroyed or banished back to the Abyss, is that you work with Visor and Devere, the Drow outcast archmage, to complete a ritual that will summon all the demon lords to one place so that they can fight each other, and then you and your allies will defeat the weakened demon lord. So there are a lot of ideas. Visor and Devere has a big vendetta against the city of Menzoberranzan. So he wants you to summon the demons to Menzoberranzan so that they can destroy Menzoberranzan and each other. So he gets his revenge, and he saves the Underdark. I don't know that he's super keen on saving the Underdark. I think he just wants to destroy Menzoberranzan. But anyway, instead of Menzoberranzan, they can summon the demon lords to this Illithid colony, and in doing so, prevents the Illithids from going to the surface and trying to take Wave Echo Cave. Why do they want it? That's not important. The Lithids kind of have a weird way of being. Maybe they want to use it to create more Nautilus ships. Maybe they want to use it to enact some kind of a weird psychic ritual to enslave the swaths of the surface. Who knows? Who knows? But that's not the important thing. The important thing is that Objective 1, neutralize a Illithid colony, and we already kind of touched on Objective 2. Objective 2 will be to get revenge on Segmatoy Sub. And part of that will require dealing with, we'll call it the Demon Lord Menace, or the DLM for short. So they're going to have to go down. They're going to have to reckon with the fact that the Demon Lords were summoned. I'll probably use the same kind of overarching thread in Out of the Abyss, that the summoning ritual in Menzoberranzan went wrong. Summoned all the demon lords, or a good portion of them, to the Underdark, and then now it has to be dealt with. There's a lot of meta to that whole thing that is important to kind of the overarching story of why these demon lords are here. It has a lot to do with Lolth and her kind of attempts, let's say, to gain an upper hand on just the world in general, and other gods and so on. Not intensely important. Let's see. Okay. Does that work? Okay. I think I just need to make sure that I stay within a certain bit so that everyone can see what I'm typing. All right, but that at least sets up a framework. Let's just say, so we're not playing next week because we're off on break. We're not playing again basically until start of December, so I guess not technically. It's going to be like November 29th and 30th. But anyways, so there's going to be a really long time between now and then. So let's plan for that session. So end of November session. So this is going to be Into the Underdark. We're going to talk of so it's going to be leading into Blingden Stone in Trouble. So they're gonna arrive in Antimoc's Boon. Actually, and we're just gonna do line by line what happens. So 1, Blingdenstone in trouble. That's just a premise. 2, arrive in Ento. Actually, let's change that order. 2, speak with. We're gonna say Earth Elemental. What are they called? It's not an Archon. Yeah, it is an Archon. Archon. Named. Now, I don't want to be too cheesy here. I just got done playing through Legend of Mana. Sometimes these little things kind of leak in, these inspirations. Just got done playing Legend of Mana. And so there was a big, huge story thread throughout that involved like all of these, basically these weird gem people, very similar to Crystal Gems from Steven Universe, even though Legend of Mana came out way before. But let's call this Earth Elemental Archon. I want to name him something kind of zippy. We'll call him Malachite. And you know what? We'll follow a Sailor Moon name convention. Malachite. Although, what was it? Yeah, Malachite. Because that's what is it? Maxwell something. He was the one that Molly fell in love with. Anyways, we'll I'm going to include other Archons. In fact, let's just do that. Say that include other Archons and name them after Sailor Moon villains. All right, but so anyways, speak with Malachite. Malachite says, let's see. So normally the player character, normally at this point of the Out of the Abyss, they would be fighting against Juiblex. But I want to switch it up. I don't want to have the Pudding King, but we'll put in something comparable. And we have so many Demon Lords to play with. So there's Demogorgon, Orcus, Zugtmoy, Juiblex, Baphomet, and I feel like I'm missing one. Oh yeah, Yinogu. Sometimes I like to throw it in. I've run Out of the Abyss so many times that I've thrown in some different Demon Lords. I've included Pazuzu. I've included there's a Demon Lord named Alvarez that I've included because that's funny to me. Sorry, taking a sip. I should have a beer. I have beers. Let me think about this. I want to start including some more interesting Demon Lords. And I'm trying to think of... Okay, I've got an idea. So they're not going to be fighting against Juiblex. So Malachite says... Blingdenstone being targeted by a box hub. And you know what? I can't make it a box hub because a box hub is like a full-on deity. It'd be too difficult to like really fight against. Let's make it. So here's the portion where I do some research. So I'm looking up a box hub, and a box hub to me has always been kind of the Dungeons and Dragons equivalent of the Dungeons and Dragons equivalent of Sithvizug from Pathfinder, and Sithvizug is not as interesting to me as Tree Razor, the son of the Sithvizug, is. So let's see. Does a Boxob have a son or an offspring, or some kind of a slough off child? Let's see, Divine Realm, activities, relationships. So now I'm looking, the Demon Lord, okay, sought to form the, okay. So, with Dagon, History, Queen of Chaos, Imprisoning. So no, there's not anything that I can tell in the lore that would lead me to believe that there is like an in-canon child of a Boxob. So that's no problem. I want to make sure, like, I want to cleave to the established when possible. But when not, I'm free to make anything up. So Coxo Docs. That sounds good. Coxodox. And we will call this Sliver of a Boxob. So basically we're just creating a Demon Lord that is kind of the if you could imagine a Boxob being like some kind of crazy weird alien creature, Coxodox actually no, Coxodox has way too much avenue of abuse. Like they're just gonna call it Cox. So not a K, not an OX. Let's see, a boat. Boxod. Yeah, that's a little bit simpler. Not as alien as I wanted to. Maybe we can add another little layer to that. Bazod. No, Baz. No, that's just too weird. Boxazed. No, that doesn't sound right at all. There we go. I think this feels better. Vidoxaz. That seems alien, and that seems like a mouthful. You want a demon lord's name to be something that it doesn't just sound like a cat stepped on a keyboard. Like you want that to have like this weird kind of mouthfeel. So Vidoxaz. A Boxob is kind of the same way. There's like similar number of syllables. It just kind of has that weird like these are letters that don't go together. Vidoxaz. Okay, so Vidoxaz, Sliver of a Boxob. Fantastic. So we're just gonna make Vidoxaz like a Boxob Junior. It will be similar to Jeweeblex. We could even keep the Pudding King, although we will call him the I think we'll call him the Duke of Panic. No, that's going to invite Panic at the Disco jokes. The Duke of Chaos just sounds a little too important. And so the Pudding King is just this sad creep who worships Jeweeblex and causes a lot of trouble. But this guy's gonna be the Duke of Havoc. Perfect. The Duke of Havoc. Someone can make a Dukes of Hazzard joke, but I invite it. That's okay. Duke of Havoc is Chief Worshipper. So all of this is happening. They go into Entomoc's Boon, which is adjacent to Blingden Stone. Malachite tells the group, hey, Vidoxaz is causing trouble, is going to swallow this entire city whole if we don't act fast. Unfortunately, Malachite is constrained. Let's just add that. Malachite can't leave Timok's Boon. Can send 2 gargoyles to help. Let's say. So, who are the gargoyles, you ask? Those gargoyles are going to be. Wingle and Keps. I don't know why. Those just sound like fun gargoyle names. Like, let's see, like, they act like feuding siblings. Wingle is by the book. Keps is boastful and wild and crazy. Poochie. It's like this is a real Chip. I'm not even gonna write that down. And Dale style. So if you ever watch Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, Wingle is Chip and Keps is Dale. So all right, I like the idea of doing the gargoyles because I don't want to send a full-on Earth Elemental with them. This group is going to be level 5. They're not going to need an Earth Elemental like lower level characters might. I've had a lot of parties come through Blingden Stone about level 3, and usually the parties tend to be pretty small. This group's going to be small but level 5, and I don't want to give them like a tremendous advantage. I feel like 2 gargoyles is a good place to start. But okay, so group travels with gargoyles to Blingden Stone to warn Mayor of what is it? Vidoxaz. Group warmly greeted. This doesn't need to be like, oh, they arrive and they try and save Blingden Stone, and the residents like don't believe them, and it's this like uphill battle. I want them to at least understand that the Underdark is a foreboding place and is generally unwelcome. But this should feel like the exception. This should be Blingden Stone should feel welcome. Because I really want the group to... it should feel like a point of contact. They should want to return here. They should feel like, they should want to protect it. So there's stakes when they get down here. So obviously they want to defend Wave Echo Cave from the Illithids. But why do they care about the Underdark? They might be like, well, who cares about the Underdark? we're just going to do our thing, and if we're completely destructive about it, that's not our problem. But if they have an attachment to Blingdenstone, which I hope they do, I can't force that, but I can at least invite it. So if they decide, hey, we love Blingdenstone, then, actually, let's set this up like a if we love Blingdenstone, then stakes, which means this, let's just codify it. This leads to buy-in, and buy-in is so important in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. This is what leads to character development. This is what leads to a character making tough decisions. Let's pretend Demogorgon is rampaging through the area, and the group is very close to completing some kind of mission in another part of the Underdark. Well, hey, all of a sudden they get a message spell from Blingdenstone that says, hey, we're in the warpath of the Demogorgon. Can you come save us? Now they have to decide, are we going to complete this mission, or are we going to go save Blingdenstone? Those are really tough choices to make, and those are choices that I want to invite. I say invite. I want to create these kind of choices so that the group will then define themselves by those choices. They can decide, sorry, Blingdenstone, you're on your own. We can't fight Demogorgon. We wouldn't know what to do if we were there. Maybe they could give the advice like, hey, abandon your homes and you'll be fine. That may well be true. They might have so much forward advanced warning that they then leave. Blingdenstone is destroyed. The gnomes then are kind of nomads. No real pun intended, I guess. I like that, though. Nomads. There's a gonad joke in there, but I'm going to ignore it. And with that being said, that changes everything about the game. Now, they don't have to save Blingdenstone, but if they don't, it removes their home base in the Underdark. It creates drama because they're like, well, we did kind of not help the gnomes of Blingdenstone. Are we responsible? Should we help them find a new home? I have had an Out of the Abyss game lead to the destruction of Blingdenstone, the mass exodus of the gnomes, and they ended up relocated to the Neverlight Grove after it was saved from Zugtamoy, so that it was a suitable place for the gnomes, and it was good. I like that they had that buy-in where they're like, hey, in that version, of course, there was like an NPC named Stool, and they're like, hey, we're going to combine these two groups that we really like and solve the problem of the gnomes by taking them to the now reformed Myconids, and everything turned out great, and it was a really awesome role-playing opportunity. All I'm trying to say, that this is beyond the scope of the planning. All I'm trying to say is that if you get the buy-in, these opportunities present themselves. And sometimes it falls flat. Sometimes it could be like, we don't care about the gnomes of Blingdenstone. They're on their own. And they could just go on and not ever care about that. But it will still at least have consequences. So let's just say if no buy-in, then it's like, as long as we're doing this if-then style, world feels lived in. What does that mean? They might run into could run into nomads. That might just be a thing. Or political change could happen. Maybe Drow or Durgar move into Blingdenstone to fill a gap. Maybe they capture Entomoc's moon. And again, all of this is outside of the scope of the planning for this session, which is crazy. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because these are all ideas that I could use down the line. And I guess what's important to note here is that these are all things that go on in my brain when I think of, like, in the moment, in the like when I'm running games, someone will say do something or do something, and it will stimulate an idea of being like, hey, I can use that. Or, hey, that made me think of this other idea. Let's extrapolate that into something completely wacky and crazy, and then we get Drow and Duergar capturing Entomoc's boon from Blingdenstone being in the warpath of the Demogorgon. Like, that's just this weird, wild, and crazy stream of thought kind of process that I have, but it leads to fun stories. But let's go ahead and shelve this because this is a lot of not relevant stuff. So let's see. Let's just let's see. Can we italicize this? Yes. We're just going to push this down because we don't need that right now. Bort. Anyhow, so group travels with gargoyles. We're going to go back to where we were. Group travels with gargoyles to Blingdenstone to warn Mayor. Mayor is like, okay, that sounds great. So they're then going to, Group escorted to Corrupted Thane, which is just a fancy way of saying temple. Group escorted to Corrupted Thane. Thane normally open and accessible. Now here's where I'm going to combine two things. So I'm going to make entrance to Thane. I'm pretty sure I knew a guy named Thane at some point. Let's see, why do I have... Okay. So what am I doing right now? Alright. We are then looking at a dungeon that's already in Out of the Abyss. You don't see it, but I'm doing research on the side. Let's see, maybe I need to use my precious D&D Beyond app. That'll go faster. And by the way, anyone watching, feel free to comment, feel free to ask questions, feel free to, even if it's not related to what I'm talking about, hey, do you have a D&D game that you have questions about? Do you want opinions? Do you want me to comment on something that you're thinking of doing? Anything is valid. We're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and this is just my thought process put to paper, which I rarely do. I think that is something that I have expressed in the past. I rarely write this stuff down, and I think this is kind of helpful to do. This is helpful to set the time aside to do. Let's see. Because I used to do this a lot more often, and when I write down my ideas, it's about as helpful as like the in the moment kind of whirlwind changes that I make. But what ends up happening is that I find more connections as I write things down, and the connections are really what is important. Because if I let's just pretend, hey, Malachite, the Earth Elemental Archon. Well, maybe I will combine the idea of the Earth Elemental Archon with another adventure that I did a way long time ago that partially took place in the elemental plane of Earth, and maybe I call back to that. Does it matter that the player characters don't know what I'm calling back to? No. It matters to me because now I have this breadth of things that I've experienced and kind of played with that I can kind of bring together in the web. Whether or not the players kind of know the wild web of references, self-references really that I'm making, it's still the interconnection kind of feeds my imagination and just makes everything better. So the more I can weave things together, all of a sudden we're working with a lattice or a scaffolding of ideas. And so that's why that's why writing things down is helpful, because the lattice is stronger in those cases. The scaffolding is more stable, and that's something again, most of the pandemic, I went from running 4 games, maybe 3 games, to like 10. I want to say at the height, and what I lost was the ability to sit down and write things out. And that was unfortunate, but I mean, I've been able to make do, and I've been able to kind of use the spur of the moment in each of the games to kind of buoy each other game. But I think this might be more sustainable, maybe, and I'm less likely to burn out if I'm just relying on stream of thought all the time. All right, but all of that was to say, entrance to Thane is guarded by traps. So what does that mean? We're going to, okay, into the darkness, and we're going to do, so there's a very small dungeon in Out of the Abyss called the Lost Tomb of Caim. Lost Tomb of Caim with adjustments. So what does that mean? We're going to take this lost tomb. So one of the really cool things in this tomb is if you run Out of the Abyss, or if you play Out of the Abyss, you might find an intelligent sun sword. And that is really cool. And I want to include that in here. That's kind of something that I have included in most of the Out of the Abyss games. And sun swords are really cool and awesome. They're not as overpowered as you might think. And I really want to put this in here. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me an NPC that I can speak through, which is sometimes important. And that's going to be really cool. So Lost Tomb of Caim, usually it's like this weird specter that got interred into the ground and was evil. I want to say that they're like an old Netherese wizard that got interred into this tomb, but like are still really angry. So we're going to use the Lost Tomb of Caim. But instead of a specter, and instead of this being like a Netherese wizard, which actually I like the Netherese part, so maybe we'll integrate that. But we'll say Vidox Oz is born of a Netherese experiment that tried to siphon power from a box ob. Daddy Obox noticed and corrupted the experiment. Absorbed 5 researchers and 1 mage. This tomb, let's see. So this tomb's going to contain these like absorbed researchers and mage. But why are they there? So that's an important question. Now, the Netherese connection is important because I can then tie this. This is what I'm talking about with the connections. I've been running this like under current of Netherese activity in like 4 different games, including this one. And that's important because I want to have the Netherese. They're like this ancient empire, doesn't exist anymore. Like full of all of these like prideful wizards that basically destroyed themselves with hubris. Point being, I'm gonna now tie all of these games together. I can now bring in disparate elements. But anyhow, so Netherese wizards. This tomb, desecrated by Vidoxos to act as research for creating a brother. So in this tomb, instead of this weird like grouping of undead creatures that are protecting this sun sword, it's gonna be this grouping of absorbed researchers. What do I mean by absorbed? I'm saying like a Boxob created Vidoxos as a kind of like a child, if you will, maybe some kind of like a like a what am I trying to say? Like a nymph or a larval stage of like a god. So maybe he wants to create another chaos god, and that's what Vidoxos is. And Vidoxos is like, let me take that a step further. Maybe I'm going to create a brother. Maybe we'll combine and become that god. Maybe I will consume my brother and become that god. That part is not as important, but he wants to create more chaos, darkness, demon lordy type stuff. So these absorbed researchers are then going to be regurgitated as these kind of like possessed entities, partially demonic. Cambion? Question mark? So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be these like demonic creatures guarding basically researching and using the Sun Sword as a power source. So they want to use the Sun Sword, and it is named Dawnbringer, as a power source to create experiment. We're getting into the weeds here, but trust me, there's a payoff. So Dawnbringer as a power source to create experiments, and then and also to guard temple. So the temple that they have to get to defeat Vidoxos, or at least to drive him out, is guarded by this whole research area. So we're going to turn the Lost Tomb of Caim into the research station of Vidoxos. And so we've turned what might have been a very simple, like one session go to Blingden Stone. Next session go to the Temple of Juiblex. And then next session defeat the Pudding King and drive away the influence of Juiblex. That could have been 3 sessions. This is starting to look like it could be 5 or 6 sessions. Which is a good thing. We want to really build up like, hey, why do we care about Blingden Stone? What's up with the Underdark? Why are these demon lords being so pervasive down here, and what are the stakes? And again, part of the stakes are like, well, I want them to like Blingden Stone, I want them to be able to protect it, but I also want them to know all of this fucked up demonic stuff is happening, and they should also earn the things that they get. So they're going to have to earn Dawnbringer. They're going to have to earn the kind of the ability to use Blingden Stone and Entamatsuboon as a headquarters. And from there we will branch out and do more out of the Abyss stuff. So even though it sounds like I've been talking in circles for the last 30 minutes or so, all of this is just rich stuff to draw from. and will help me in figuring out the next, let's call it 8 sessions, because there's also getting to Entomoc's Boon. They can then in the future, we'll just combine this now. In the future, they will be able to use Malachite as a source of information. Malachite has a connection to Entomoc, Entomoc being a positive elemental lord. We'll talk about that, what that means at another time. But basically, they'll have a connection to a higher power that will then be able to help them. I have a player who's going to want to use that to gain power, and that's fine. At least this will be a positive ability. 2 of the players gained and subsequently lost their faith in Zugtamoy because they wanted power. They're like, Zugtamoy's going to offer me power? Fine, I will do Zugtamoy's bidding. I finally was able to convince them to abandon Zugtamoy to then move on to something else, and I think Entomoc might be a great place to start. Things to remember. Remind players of quest to return Son of Aramikos to the colony. So that's a really important undercurrent. That's almost like one of the central tenets. And this is, see, I almost forgot about this, but this is yet a third reason to tie them into the Underdark. They found this like fungal colony that was removed from Aramikos by Zugtamoy to create this kind of like second colony. They didn't. The players did not like that either, and so that's yet another thing. So as we continue, we're just drawing more and more of the impetus, the kind of the reason for adventuring down into the Underdark, towards defeating the Illithids, towards defeating the Demon Lords, towards getting revenge on Zugtamoy, potentially this kind of kinship with the gnomes of Blingdenstone, and with finding out what is Aramikos, why do we care, what is the Son of Aramikos, and so that will lead to some interesting encounters later. I think we're done. I think we've talked this near to death, but with amazing results, so we're good there. All right. That was one game's planning, but I think I've done a week's worth of games. Let's say, I say a week. I mean, like, if you were to line the games up, more like a couple months worth of games there. So there we are. And I'm just going to check something real quick on Twitter to see if we want to call that close to being there, or if we want to continue. As I'm kind of mulling that option over, I might do a quick crash course through the other games, or I might instead decide something else. Sorry, I'm running through my thoughts and they're going faster than I can talk. Let's start with this. Anybody listening or watching, do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Do you have need for advice? Whether you are a Dungeons and Dragons player, Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master, maybe you don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but you're still watching this and want to ask about tabletop RPGs in some fashion. I'm open to questions. I'm open to comments. I'm open for anything that you might want to ask regarding any of that. So yeah, anyone who has anything to say, please say it now. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to go for a little bit longer, barring a few changes, but let's see. Shoot. So when we were doing this last time, let's see. I'm just going to check last week's notes very briefly. Of course, everything is going slow. Also, I noticed the music is kind of soft. Maybe I want to kick that up a little bit. But not a lot. How's about that? Hopefully that's not too loud. All right, where were we? Okay, that is potentially obnoxious. Let me see if I can pull this up on my phone. In case you're wondering, I am listening to copyright-free chiptunes. I love chiptunes. Hopefully you do too. All right, we're going back to our old notes from last week. So 1 was Lost Mines, 2 is Klaus the Gnome. So we're going to go back over that. We didn't get to play from last time to this time. And actually, in the interest of maybe keeping this under wraps, I have a lot to work from last week. So we might just skip those notes, especially since the person to whom that refers to Looney, Klaus, I'm just going to write this out, the gnome. Last week's notes still apply. Whoops, I can't type. Do we want to add anything to that? So there's some ideas. I'm just reading back. Karamikos. So let's just add a to do. To do. Research Karamikos. Add map to Roll20 or something. So what I want to do is I want to have kind of like a geopolitical map that I'm going to be able to use. And Looney, if you are listening to this, you can hear this because this isn't going to ruin anything. So don't worry about not listening. All right, so we're going to add a geopolitical map. And what this will allow me to do is to define factions. So there's factions. And what I need to do is start to kind of research the the deep history of Karamikos, what's going on there, what are the races and factions, what are the cities and nations that exist within Karamikos. So that's a big, deep to do. Not something I can do on stream, but that's going to require deep reading. That's going to require deep note taking. But something that I think will be important to making this feel like a lived-in world. What is it? Mystara is a very old D&D setting. And one that benefits from having a lot of interesting kind of background to it. That's something I really like. That's why I play, or that's why I run Palladium Fantasy setting. That's why I run Eberron. That's why I run a lot of these settings that just kind of feel deep and rich and have a lot of nutrients. It's like a very rich soil. So that's good. I don't have to do anything much more than just say, hey, do your research. That's something that I've been lacking in. I chose Mystara not knowing a lot about it, kind of pledging that I would learn, and so I need to learn. Okay, but that's good. That is at least a roadmap. Oop, I got that open, and so I need to open this again. So what does that bring us to? So that brings us to the Lost Mines of Phandelver. So LMOP, and we'll call that Dawn of Thay. So we talked last week about that. We have since had time to do a little bit more, but I'm just going to write a note. Rely on last week's notes, except. So last week's notes, we kind of fleshed a few things out. We talked about the Netherese. We talked about the Thayans. We talked about how... let's see, Semi-Lich, Thayan Commander, is going to go after them. Reformed Wizard knows how to create flying cities. Semi-Lich wants Thayan secrets for flying cities. So there's conflict brewing. So the group is about to go down into a dungeon. This is really what I want to start we want to start fleshing out. So a group about to go into dungeon. I didn't really think about this at the end of last game. So they're going to go into this dungeon. What's the dungeon? It's going to be this weird little lattice work in the bottom of the. It's going to be in the bottom of the, basically encompassing this flying island. I've already had all this stuff to do with sphinxes and statues and weird flying eyes. Let's do what we did for one of our other games. We're going to use Temple of Earth from Princes of Apocalypse. And that does a lot to just save us time. I did this in my Friday game, and we'll talk about it if we get around to it. But I'm going to be able to use the Temple of Earth more or less unchanged. We will say that whatever they find in there is the reason that the island can fly. So instead of, in fact, we'll write that down. Instead of whatever bauble they would find, they find a lodestone. Now, lodestone is this kind of like a weird concept in science fiction, science fantasy, where it's like, oh, it's this like magnet so strong you can lift things like a city, an island, or an airship. And so we're just going to say they find a lodestone. What can they do with that lodestone? You know what? I think this is a group that I could allow to have an airship. But it won't be a big airship. So we'll say it's the size of a yacht. Why does lodestone lift island? We'll say corrupted connection to a plane of elemental earth. And guess what? So this connection to the elemental plane of earth comes right back up here. And so Malachite, elemental earth, Entomok. So what we say here is this connects to Ogremok. Ogremok is the de facto elemental evil earth thing from the Princes of Apocalypse and Temple of Elemental Evil from which it is hewn. So here's an idea. If they fix the corruption from the elemental plane or plane of elemental, or I'm sorry, elemental plane of Earth. That's the way I should be saying elemental plane of Earth. Then that's going to affect Entomok's boon. Going to help Malachite. More info from Entomok. So that's going to be where there's going to be a real cool meshing. Now the groups may not know that these two things are connected. They may not need to know, but the important thing is that I know, and these are things that kind of connect. What could this mean in the future? Maybe there's going to be a way for the two groups to interact. I don't know. I love it when things like this happen, because then that sets off this cascade of, oh, now something the other group does can then affect this game and vice versa, and the groups will start to notice these little things kind of happening back and forth. For right now, we will say could allow for teleportation into elemental plane of Earth. Maybe also allows for same for group in Monday game. Could be neat. And hello. Not looking. Yeah, it's totally safe. So look at the screen. I'm going to highlight the part that applies to you. None of this is a spoiler. This is just homework for me. I need to research Karamakos, and that's kind of the region that game is taking place in. And so that's it. I need to do research on that area so that I know it better. But there's nothing here that the last week's notes are really where I talked about some really juicy stuff that you can't know about. So no worries. Okay. All right, and then so this is fantastic. Going back to the elemental plane of Earth, boom! Now there's a connection. Now there's things I can draw between the two. Now there's a direct line that I can kind of get between the points A and B of these campaigns. I can start doing stuff with that. It's going to feel really cool. I could even have the possibility of the two groups kind of having this weird communication. Do they want to trade magical items? They could do that. Do they want to maybe build like a little tiny society in their pocket of the elemental plane of Earth? They could do that. And now having the two groups kind of interact with each other would be really awesome. Maybe at some point in the future, I have a game where I have both groups come together in a Zoom or something, and all of a sudden, this is a strong connection that would kind of tie all of these loose ends together. Maybe I send a Demon Lord from the Monday game to this Wednesday game, and that's a thing. Maybe the Netherese connection spills from the Wednesday game back into the Monday game. These are all of these little webs that I've begun to weave. So this is easy. Like I said the last week about using the elemental temple, super easy. These are connections that I can make, and it makes the game easy to run. So dungeon crawl through elemental temple of Earth, easy, done. So that's easy enough to do. Going back to my prior week's notes. Myth Stranner game, we didn't... wait, did we get to play last week? I don't think we did. My memory is failing me. Let's see. Nope, I didn't get to use any of that. Do I want to bolster any of what I did last week? Yeah, we didn't get to play. Okay, so Myth, we'll just call it Myth Stranner. Okay, thank Christ I didn't stumble into any spoilers. I hate to lose all my good girl points. There's my head pats. No worries. Very few things you could do would do that, but... Sorry, sipping water. But no, you came in at a perfect time, and I think I kind of purposefully did this so that I wouldn't have spoiled anything for you, because that would have made me feel bad. I would have been the bad person if I had spoiled stuff for you, because I'm excited about the things that I have planned. Alright, Myth Ranner. So, going back to last week's notes, we're going to have hyenas. And what are they going to do? Pack of hyenas sent from future to help, but will be agents of Archmage. And the Archmage is a bad guy. The group kind of knows it, but one of the characters is kind of, swayed by the Archmage. So, all right. However, and then this is yet another little connection. Hyenas, Hinogu, however you spell that, may be involved. So, do I want to have all of these connections culminate Demon Lords? Maybe I have each group culminate in a combat with a different Demon Lord. Now, all of a sudden, we go back to this Monday game where instead of having this one group responsible for fighting all of the Demon Lords that have come over from the Abyss, they can outsource it. And so maybe this group is primarily concerned with fighting Zugtamoy, the Demon Lord of, or Demon Lady, if you will, of Fungus. But maybe group 3 on Wednesdays, they're going to fight, I don't know, what would be a good Demon Lord for them to fight? Be on the surface. thinking about all of the different possibilities. They're on the Sword Coast, so let's just say Dagon question mark. That could be interesting. And then Group 4 in Mithranor. So Grazd could be a great one. Maybe Grazd is behind all of the Archmage's kind of problems. Grazd is this kind of charmer. He wants to subvert things. He wants to corrupt, but he's got like this silver tongue. Grazd brings in what is it? Not Tasha, but Igwilv. So there's lots of really good possibilities, but also Yinogu could also be another thing. So like Grazd, if I want to go the charmer route, Yinogu if I want to go the kind of destructive route, or both. Who knows? Regardless, we're looking at them going back to Mithranor. And I have to remember exactly where I left off because I think they were about to fight something, but I can't quite remember what. So we'll get to that next time. And rather than to open up a tab to figure out what's going on in that game, I'm going to worry about that when I worry about that. We can kind of wrap up if we keep going at this rate because we're halfway there. Let's see. So 4 was Mithranor. We've got copious notes. We don't need to go through too many more. War Drums. So War Drums is a lot to go over. So last game, let's just do a recap. Last game... Now my memory is failing me again. So what were they going to do? Okay, so this all this Shantico stuff. They kind of reckoned with the fact that they had all of this to do. Oh, so the last game they fought an aspect of Pontifex. Who is Pontifex? Can't remember if we talked about it last time. But the Pontifex is, yeah, we did. Pontifex is bad guys responsible for many curses, allied with Shantico. So this is one of the games in the Palladium Fantasy universe. So I don't necessarily get to combine it with the Forgotten Realms ones that I'm running, but who knows? Maybe I can. We'll figure it out. So they fought the aspect. So it's not Linnea, but Liali, freed from Periton form, and will help group. High level ranger, venerable elf. Also, brunch. Also a rival of Dragon Right Army. Army led by Thera Sunkist. Boisterous Elven Druid / Paladin. So, one of the dirty little secrets of this game, and hopefully nobody who's in my game gets to watch this. I don't think that they have been quite, but we'll see if they do. In fact, let's see who's in chat right now. If my OBS wants to. Okay, yeah, I don't see anyone who this would apply to, and yeah, the people in this game don't generally tend to watch my streams anyhow. But if you are, don't listen to this next part. The dirty little secret is that most of the Elven NPCs that they've run into so far have been a former characters of mine. So Liali, although she was not an elf when I played her, Liali was a human raised by orcs who became like this fighter sorcerer. Her sister's Linnea. Linnea was the first fighter wizard that I ever played. In fact, first third edition character really that I ever played. Thera Sunkist, I created her for a convention game. She is this very like forward, free to speak her mind druid who is just kind of like all business, all up front. But I'm using all of these personalities to fill in these gaps because I want to have these very built out characters, and I had these very fleshed out ideas of who they were going to be. So, all right, Thera Sunkist arrives. Apparently, a character became smitten by Thera at first sight, so that's going to be interesting. So what comes next? Thera will suggest a military campaign. If given info, will suggest attacking Daznolov. Who is Daznolov? Is let's say, I don't think I ever said what kind of giant Daznolov is. Giant, what kind? Question mark. That allied with Shantiko. Shantiko, of course, being the evil god that's kind of the big bad of this campaign. Although the big bad could be Shantiko or it could be Zoliad. We haven't figured it out. Who's Zoliad? Zoliad's an ancient wizard trapped in the Rune Heart. Anyhow, war against the Daznolov may entail alliance with Roman. Aliens that look like giant dragon humanoids. To save Sandpoint from giant. All right. So I know what I want to do next. Group will be funneled to giant village ruled by Halfwing, dragon disguised as giant. So we knew that from last time, but we're just kind of elaborating, like, how do we get from point A to point B? Group is in Sandpoint, being threatened by Daznolov the giant. They just received an army from the Church of Dragonrite. So now we are going to funnel the group towards Daznolov, towards the village ruled by Halfwing. And so that is how it's going to go. So to be very specific, Thera will suggest recon by group on village. Village forward point in giant incursion. So they're not going to see Daznolov at this village. That's important to say. Will not interact with Daznolov yet. Half-wing, kind of like mid-boss. So what to expect? Group enters village, realizes giants are oppressed, mostly trolls and ogres. And in this setting, trolls and ogres aren't necessarily evil or degenerate or whatever. I want them to be sympathetic. Not every troll is going to be like a heartless monster. Not every ogre is going to be like a brutish simpleton. The books of this setting kind of paint them out to be that. I reject that. But the trolls and ogres can be swayed. These less swayed. Will require fight with half-wing. Well, why can't they? And so this is, I am anticipating my players. Why can't they turn the ogres and trolls to just kill halfwing? That's a really good question. We'll say halfwing awarded a Crown of Giant Command by Daznalov. Does Daznalov know that halfwing? And I need to find a better name for it. I mean, halfwing's his dragon name. That sounds kind of silly to say, but it's true. I need a better name for the giant persona of halfwing. So, let's call. I'm struggling with a name here, but the gears are turning. Half-wing giant persona named Mountain Crush. So this name says two things. Let's just move this to its own line. This is something to know about Halfwing. Halfwing does not have a high opinion of giants. That's why he's oppressing these trolls and ogres. That's why he's treating them terribly. That's why he has this circlet that lets him control giants and so on. But Halfwing also, because of his low opinion, just gave himself such a dumb giant name. He's Mountain Crush. Well, what do giants respect? They respect strength, so I'm going to name myself Mountain Crush so people think that I can crush mountains. That's like simplistic, but on purpose and in a very mean way. That tells you as much about Halfwing as you should need to know. So, group must defeat Halfwing or face inner circle of dominated giant champions. Does the group want to fight these giant champions? Maybe. But they're going to be very tough. Giant champions. Let's just kind of codify this. They're going to be like CR 13. There will be 5 of them. They don't want to deal with that. They want to fight Halfwing. Let group contrive fight with Halfwing in an inner sanctum. Why fight Halfwing alone? The whole point of the circle is that Halfwing can control giants. Why would Halfwing allow himself into a situation where he can't use his most potent weapon, the control of other giants? Well, let's solve for that. So circlet must be recharged at an let's just call it Earth node, and we'll highlight it is on a ley line nexus. We may talk about why that's important, but for right now, let's focus. The ritual to recharge circlet must be done alone because it requires true form. So let's just spell this out so that I don't forget. When Halfwing recharges circlet every full moon, let's just say, must be in dragon form and cannot be seen by giants. So that's a perfect opportunity. The group, let's write this out, group must learn of ritual. Halfwing says it is for prosperity, but group may learn it is to recharge circlet. Circlet use is obvious. Group learns It dominates giants very quickly. Granite Fist Crush Boom Bang. Oh man, I like that name so much better. Can I use that? See, I feel like this is the space mutiny thing all over again from MST3K. Like I need to call him Crunch Ripsteak or Big McLarge Huge. But I love Granite Fist Crush Boom Bang. That's such a better name. And it conveys exactly the same thing. Fist Crush Boom Bang. I love it. I love this so much. And so yes, Halfwing would absolutely go like, oh, one title is great. More titles is better. Granite Fist Crush Boom Bang. He's like that. That makes me the grand poobah of these lowly giants. So yeah, absolutely, 100,000%. That's fantastic. All right. So yeah, circlet use is obvious. Group learns it dominates giants very quickly. Half Wing doesn't care that people know he can dominate giants. Morale in the city is super low because he just bullies other giants around, and people know it, but they think he's a giant bullying other giants, which is like enough to keep the populace in check. They knew he was let's just write that out, just so that it's plain and obvious. If populace knew he was dragon, they would rebel. Might even give dominated giants chance to resist magic. That would be disastrous. Halfling would lose everything if people knew he was a dragon. And the setup so far is that the player characters may not realize that Halfwing is dragon. So they won't know he's Halfwing. They won't know he's a dragon. They will just learn that they just have to learn that he can be fought alone. But this presents a different challenge for me because they've fought dragons before. They can handle a dragon. Now, I can make this like a very dangerous and deadly dragon, or I can make this fight interesting. So, Halfwing can't fly. That's why his name is Halfwing. But what do we do? So, in this elemental mode, Halfwing gains power. AC 22. That's going to change a lot of things. Fist Meat, Hill Smash, Slam Face, the World Crusher. They just keep getting better. Fist Meat is just. I think my group would probably like groan at Fist Meat. Granite. But let's see. I like Granite as a first name because it can be shortened to Granite and doesn't sound like just full on ridiculous. Fist Crush, Kill, Smash, Boom Bang. I'm going to leave off the Slam Face because I feel like that's another one that they would kind of like roll their eyes at. But again, let's just keep adding to this and see how ridiculous it gets because I feel like this is good. Granite, Fist Crush, Hill Smash, Boom Bang. Like, I like it so far. All right. So let's go back. Elemental Node, Halfwing gains power. Armor class 22, Granite exterior. Let me see. What is a good thing that he can do as a layer action? Let's look at that. Layer actions, legendary actions. So we want this to be a real cool fight. We don't want it to be like, oh, they're gonna die. We don't want it to be like so overwhelming that they can't possibly win. But the AC 22 is going to be really good. They're going to be like suffering to inflict damage against this thing. I just seem to have a penchant for making up absurdly macho names. It's amazing. You've got a talent for this. Layer actions, legendary actions. But gosh, I want these to be interesting. So let's just kind of tie this in. So legendary action, summon gargoyle. Boom. Layer action, gargoyles get extra action. Boom. I love it. So Halfwing is going to start summoning these like little chumpy let's see, 2 legendary actions. And this is going to be where they want to really okay. Now this already sounds like it might be too much. No. Let's make armor class 20. This seems a little bit more fair. Granite exterior. Well, let's see. No, that's not necessarily. Okay. Let's try this. Okay, 1 legendary action. Summon gargoyle. Layer action. Gargoyle gets an extra action. So already, first round of fight, they're going to deal a ton of damage to Halfwing. Halfwing's going to summon a gargoyle. Gargoyle's going to get to attack twice, which a gargoyle I think attacks twice already, so basically 4 times. So all of a sudden they're like, oh, this obnoxious gargoyle. Round 2, Halfwing creates a second gargoyle. Depending on how things go, might happen before the layer action. Boom! All of a sudden, these gargoyles are going crazy. There's 2 gargoyles tearing into people. They have to focus their attention. And so that's going to tip the scale. But I don't want it going too crazy. If I start doing 2 gargoyles per turn with 2 full actions, that's going to make it crazy. But this will be enough, I think, that it will at least feel like there's going to be tension. They're going to start out really strong, and then the tides will turn slightly towards that. Let's see. Make, create. You know what? No, we're doing 2 because 2 layer actions, 1 legendary action. Legendary action, summon gargoyle. We're doing it because the group just gained a really amazing tank, and I think I want to do something that's going to make the tank sweat it. And the tank's going to sweat it because tank's going to be fighting the Halfwing. Meanwhile, these gargoyles are going to start engaging the rest of the group. All of a sudden, group's busy doing gargoyle stuff. Tank's busy doing Halfwing stuff. Now, here's going to be a little trick. Let's just say they burn down Halfwing all of a sudden. Halfwing's like, boom, dead in 2 rounds. Could happen, very likely to happen. Halfwing trades soul for resurrection. Half HP. Reborn as gargoyle. Loses legendary actions, but gains 5 instant gargoyles. So what's happening here is all of a sudden Halfwing becomes a gargoyle, and in this setting a gargoyle is basically a demon. So he's basically saying, hey, give me your power, I will become this gargoyle lord, and instantly gains 5 gargoyles. So all of a sudden the second half of this combat becomes that much more dangerous. Could potentially be burnt down in another round, but still, this is like, oh my god, what just happened? And the best part about it is that I can adjust HP up and down. Could even have gargoyles. Could even, I was like, I could have fewer instant gargoyles, depending on how bad off people are. Humongous cranium crush punch blast. Oh my god, I love it. Cranium crush. Humongous. Let's see. Do we want to add any more? Granite Fist Crash, Hell Smash, Boom Bang. Dread. Oh my god. Now these, I'm just gonna have to save all of these. Let's see. Can I copy? Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with these. I don't know if I'm gonna name an NPC these, but now I just have to like add them to this like honorary wall of like these names are fucking banger. We'll just do this here at the bottom. All right. Dreadcock Doombringer, the Thunder Shitter, Destroyer of Lineages, Fucker of Skulls. That's amazing. That's like fruit fucker level. I don't know that I'm gonna do that except for maybe in an After Dark game. Who knows? I'm saving that. That's going somewhere. All right, where was I? So here we go. Adjust hit points up and down. Could have fewer instant gargoyles. Anyways, I want people to sweat this fight. I want this fight to be interesting. I want them to know that they have their best shot at defeating Halfwing in this node, but it's also going to cost them a lot of resources. They don't want to fight the 6 or the 5 champions, but they do want to fight Halfwing and remove him as a threat. Halfwing, second in command to Desnalov. Desnalov probably knows about Halfwing being a dragon. So, what next? Let's just say trolls and ogres may join cause. May be hard sell if Gromech are allies. Could be fun tension. But alright, yeah. Already the trolls and ogres are like, we don't like this establishment. Fuck the police. Down, fight the power. Down with the patriarchy. But these are all things that we can worry about later. So far, so good. I already have a boss fight all good and ready. But look at all these awesome notes that I've written. So the big thing is that there's going to be a big chunk, maybe 2 or 3 sessions that are all going to be interacting with the village, learning about giant culture, learning about what it is to be a troll or ogre in this giant nation. But cool. Now, so we're so close to being done, I think. Let's just go ahead and finish it up. So we go to 6. 6. So that was War Drums. Let's look at my previous week notes. Alright, 6 perils and a beer. Super simple. We're just going to go over peril and a beer. Underwater fun. So they're in an underwater kingdom. They've been doing all these crazy things. Fight cultists in a temple of water. Easy. So they've been doing it. They're in the middle of the temple of water. I bought a map for it. The map is good. It's just basically using the Temple of Elemental Evil template, which, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be doing with the Wednesday Lost Mines of Phandelver game. Yeah, I'm tempted to make this error because it's up in it, but I don't know. We'll figure that out. All right, so easy. Nothing more to do there. That's all done and ready. 7. Tomb of Annihilation. Tomb of Annihilation. Adventures League game. Go through remainder of Amber Temple. So same thing. We're just using repurposing Amber Temple. Skulltot, Jaker Krill, Master of Giga Murder. Well, I have to save that one. Jaeger Kill. Skulltot. I like this application of German. What is all this? Like, just Jaeger Kill is amazing. I just want to name a villain Jaeger Kill. So I'm saving that. I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I'm naming something Jaeger Kill. Tomb of Annihilation, go through remainder of Amber Temple. So things to consider. Arcus, Cimber will get Ring of Winter. Why? Ring will only accept him. Why? And I'm going to keep asking why because I know that this is going to come up. Because Ring... Ring contains Soul of Arcus, former Arcus's love from a former incarnation. Why am I doing something so corny? Feel free to add umlauts over the last one. Oh man, that would be amazing. Would have done it myself, but I don't think the keyboard you sent me can do those. Yeah, I will add umlauts liberally. Alright, anyways, why am I doing something so corny? Because a player wants the Ring of Winter. Why stop him? It's an artifact. If I gave the Ring of Winter to one of my characters, would break the game into pieces. Do not want to do that. That's never been the intention of the Ring of Winter being in the game, both in the printed adventure and otherwise. So it will refuse. It will refuse all other owners. Can they sell it? Sure. If they manage it, they get 50,000 gold. Whatever. It's all good. And then the Ring of Winter gets sold and shipped to Luskin and gets lost on the way. Whatever. I don't care. At that point, that's not important. But as long as the characters don't get it and keep it and can use it, that's the important part. So Amber Golems. Why did they stop attacking last game? Question mark? Alright. Amber Golems controlled by... I don't remember what I called him by Lich. I'm going to have to look at my notes because I think I wrote his name down somewhere. By Lich, Lich is toying with group. Yeah, okay, I get it. This is fantastic. This is why I write these things down. Forbidden from killing group by a Sararak, the Archlich. Why? Because a Sararak needs group to revive a dead god. Easy. Magic items group has necessary for dead god ritual. Cleaver of Shacks, vertebra of Rot, and ring of... Shoot. What was the last one? It was the... Was the Ring of Bane? I can't remember. I'll have to go back over my notes. Something. Oh! Ring of Set. Okay, but those are the items that are needed to just do the Akame thing and have your player send down 100 say rosary beads, and if they manage to do it, give them a win button item. I mean, if they pull off No, so here's the interesting part, and you might appreciate this. So the cleaver, murder 20 people. Vertebra. Raise 100 undead. Ring of Set. Poison 100 living things. So these 3 items were discovered by the group, and I thought that logic would prevail and they'd be like, let's not touch these clearly evil things, or at the very least that they would take them and maybe use them to I don't know, destroy them or like figure out how to do that. But immediately people are like, mine, dibs. And so the items speak to them and say, hey, you got to do these things and we're going to get more powerful. Well, here's the trick. Acererak the Archlich wants to bring back this kind of like unborn god. He needs the group to do these things or it won't work. So he's going to encourage them to murder 20 living things, to raise 100 undead, to poison 100 living things. When that happens, upon 20 murders, the cleaver disappears. Upon the raising of 100 undead, the vertebra disappears. Upon the poisoning of 100 living things, the ring disappears. And all of a sudden, they've lost their toy, and they're going to discover that they contributed directly to the end goal of Acererak. That they have contributed to the birthing of the unborn god. And that is going to be much more impactful than if they just showed up to Acererak doing all this crazy stuff. So I love it. It's fantastic that they're going to regret that they just took these clearly evil things and did that. But anyhow, so this is great. And now I have a reason for the Amber Golems to not do that. So what else? Okay. So group will fight boss in form of so this is going to be a manufactured fight. Will be made to think they are winning access to cultists. Cultists are just there to let's call it fuel the items. Oh, I got another absurdly named macho. Killshot Bloodcleaver, Arbiter of the Bloodthirst Blade, Drinker of Souls, Despoiler of Purity. This just sounds like some kind of a edgelord DC character, but I love it. This is like if what is it, Deadshot? Like if Deadshot had like a edgier brother, that'd be his name. All right. Anyway, so cultists are there to fuel the items. What's the fake fight that they have to do, where they're just like convinced to do this thing? One thing I want to say, Acererak will eventually tell group that Ring of Winter was bait. Group was played. All right. But yeah, you know what? Fake fight. I know what it's going to be. Fake fight will be with undead, two-headed black dragon. That seems good. It will provide a challenge. It's going to be fun because it's a dragon fight. Everybody loves a dragon fight. So let's just make sure we codify this. So 2 full actions per round. Well, no, this is I don't want to go crazy. Okay, so 1 full action, 2 bites, 2 tail strikes. We're going to want to make it 500 HP, AC 21. I want to make it kind of frustrating. They'll get to fight this thing and do it. Half power. Yeah, half power. Shoot, what am I trying to do to say? Half power breath weapons. Breath attacks as 2 legendary actions. So basically every round it doesn't need to regenerate its breath weapon. It just does a half-powered breath attack, and I'm going to justify that by being like, oh, this round one head breathes, next round the other head breathes, and they're just going to alternate, just showering the group with a weaker but still dangerous breath weapon. So that's going to be fun. 2 bites, 2 tails. Will distribute attacks. At half HP, will disgorge, let's call it 1d4 ogre zombies. That should be a fun thing to have to deal with halfway into the fight. All of a sudden, ogre zombies. And so they think they've got this thing on the ropes. All of a sudden, then they're dealing with all of this. Will lose breath attack. I think by that time, we'll pull back on the damage dealing and we'll just let this play out. And then it'll both sides are going to be in dire straits, but at least at that point, it's going to be this grand melee. And I think that'll be fun. Kill shots that also possess another sword, which most definitely should be called the Liefeld blade. He cuts feet off with his blade, you see. Of course he does. Fantastic. So we've got so much going there. I think this is fantastic. I think this is a lot to work with. We know what we want to do with that. So that was, what, 7? Next, we're going to kind of fall back on the notes that we had from last time. So this is where monsters dwell. Let me just look at my notes real quick, see how we want to go for it. And I feel like there's so much to plan that I could probably... So next week is going to be our last week before maybe a 1 or 2 week break because of the holidays. But we'll see. So they had their Void Dragon fight. It was pretty harrowing. It was a really cool fight. But I almost feel like I didn't do enough to almost kill them. So I really need to pick it up. They're on their way, I think, to the spot where they're going to try and reanimate the dead gods. Let me see. So there's a bunch of really interesting things. Center of the world must revive God, seal divinity. They're going to have to fight aberrations, star spawns. One thing I want to add, save for later. Alright. So go to towers, revive gods. But first, they will learn the truth. Their world is not the reiteration of Sulazar. Their world is a dead moon that was used to sequester the dead gods. Real Sulazar elsewhere and controlled by a tyrannical Uzuz. And Uzuz is kind of like the supreme evil of this setting. So Uzuz is like the god of whispers and darkness that... so I'm laying this out. This is a big, huge revelation. The group thinks that their world was like a post-apocalyptic one, where really it was this dead moon where Uzuz, the god of darkness and whispers, killed all the gods, entombed them in this moon, sent it off into deep space, and because of the gods' presence, this moon kind of grew life, and that life created all the things that exist there. Well, a splinter of Uzuz remained on that world in case anything came out to then keep them from learning the truth. But now they're learning it. Definitely going to hell for making a life field feet joke. I actually like Rob a lot. He's a very kind and decent guy. No, he almost seems like the Guy Fieri of the comic book world. It's like he's nice enough. He kind of like has this personality and history that's easy to mock, and it kind of comes off as that way. But no, I get exactly what you're saying. Anyhow, let's see. Sliver of ooze remains to destroy moon if gods are being reborn. So what? Gods reborn after aberration fight and can establish a connection. Gods will want revenge. May ask group to go back and collect remainder of genocide. If genocide, that's kind of a rough word, but it's because it belongs to Uzuz. Cup is formed, destroyed. It can reduce ooze in power. So, okay, to what end? End game. So, ultimate goal of group will be to form cup, weaken ooze, bolster power of inspired pseudo gods. And challenge and attack one aspect of Uzuz. And by the way, Uzuz being like the ultimate evil god, I named him because I was thinking of like what is like a whisper, and like, you know, what's a good word for whisper, and I thought of like susurrar, and like just corrupting that word of susurrar to Uzuz, making him like a corrupted whisper, I thought was good. So I love this concept of Uzuz. But yeah, he's going to be split into many different aspects. One aspect fought by old gods. One aspect fought by inspired. One aspect fought by group. So this is the end game. Goal reached after maybe another 3 to 5 months. So this game is already reaching the year mark, I think. And I'm gonna have to go back to remember when exactly this happened. But if I can, let's call it 6 months. I want this game to be about a year and 6 months or more. But at least we've got our end goal in mind, and this is kind of where I was struggling of figuring out where the point B was to this whole campaign. So now I know they're going to learn the truth. They're going to establish a connection to the actual world of Sulazar. Realize that this is a moon. That may not matter to them in the long run. They might still want to stay on the moon and do moon stuff. Maybe even bring the moon back to Sulazar and bring balance back. That could be neat. But anyways, in the interim, they're going to have to gather the parts of the Genocide Cup, find a way to destroy it, and then basically storm the Sanctum of Uzuz with the combined power of the inspired pseudo-gods, the old gods, and themselves to then end Uzuz's reign forever. I went to a funny books convention back when I lived in the US. A bunch of friends spent all day driving around in a car with no AC. Rob sees us outside the venue, and the first thing he says is, abject panic. Are you guys alright? Do you need any help? Oh my goodness. And he ended up buying all of us sodas, no matter how much we objected. Like I said, decent man. Yeah, like I said, I'm sure he's a really nice guy. Like I said, in that same way of like the Guy Fieri, it's like there's a lot to say about the persona, the kind of outward appearance of Guy Fieri, for instance, that you could make fun of. You can. And like, he just looks like a guy that you kind of want to make fun of. That's not the same exact thing with Rob Liefeld. Like, he doesn't look like a guy you don't want to make fun of. But the history of his interaction with comic books invites that criticism, let's say. Is it all like, is some of it valid? But like at the heart of it, he does seem like he's a decent guy. And like, it's just like he gave us, at least he was responsible for giving us Deadpool. He really put cable on the map. Did a lot of really good things for that kind of chunk of comic book history, let's say. But it's just like with so many things, like Stan Lee, same thing. Well, the Stan Lee was kind of the like a joke in the industry for a while, one might say. Like, it took a long time before he became the face of Marvel Comics in a way that kind of pushed Marvel Comics ahead. But this is comic book stuff. Anyhow, here we are, Game 8, Sunday night. I think we've got a real framework for where we want to be. This was where I was struggling with the kind of the setting and everything. Things to consider. Flesh out world. Would moon factions want to help? Of course. Recruitment of inspired would mean going to and speaking with each of them in each capital. Revisit some, get to know others. Learn more of Arc Death, Be the Rabbit, and Tower entities. So this is what I'm saying. All of this stuff with things like Inspired, Sulazar, Arc Death, Be the Rabbit, Tower entities. This is all stuff that doesn't make sense to anybody without the context of the greater campaign. We've been going for almost a year. This campaign is probably like the deepest that I'm in at the current moment, and so it has a lot of accumulated knowledge. The notes for this game, I think, are like probably 80 pages long. I don't do the notes. One of my players does. So I'm blessed to have players that do that. I'm blessed to have people who like care enough about the game that I run. So that's why I want to really kind of do the wraparound on this so that I know where I'm heading. So cool. We're going to call that done for tonight. that took us twice as long, and most of it was because, man, I really went to town fleshing out this first bit because I really want to draw the connective tissue between the Lost Mines of Phandelver and Out of the Abyss. And I think I did a really good job. But there we go. We are done with our note taking. Looney, you are my audience right now, and you've at least witnessed me do all these notes for a big, huge chunk of all of this kind of campaign prep. Do you have questions? Are there things that, as a brand new D&D player, that you want to ask of, like, you know, what is this weird thing that that comes part and parcel with D&D that, like, I don't understand, that maybe I can get an answer to? I always want to, like, answer these, like, odd questions that are, maybe to me, these things are like second nature. This is what I struggle with new groups. Is like, I'll do things like, I'll say, give me a 4d6. That doesn't mean anything to anyone. That means roll 4 6-sided dice. I shorthand a lot of stuff. If you have questions to that degree, if you're curious about any of the campaigns that I run, and like, maybe you're like, none of this makes sense, can you explain this one thing to me? Anything, because I invite the interactiveness of this format, of me regurgitating my thoughts onto the page. Hopefully that's as handy to other people as it is to me, so that this becomes like a format that means something more than just me, like, blabbering on for now 2 hours, where I could have just done this by myself and got the same result. I want to have some interaction. I want people to ask me questions. The fact that you gave me that name is like the coolest thing ever. Okay, I have a new question here. Is it true that dragons are horrifically OP and nearly unkillable, or is that just a meme? Dragons have a very big reputation. Some of Wizards of the Coast, so Wizards of the Coast owns Dungeons and Dragons. They intentionally made the game so that tropey things are more powerful. The spell Fireball is more powerful because it's iconic. Beholders are more powerful because they're iconic. Dragons are supposed to be more powerful because they're iconic, but in practice, dragons are not as powerful as that. And it's hard because so a beholder is very dangerous by itself. A dragon, not so much. A dragon can be overwhelmed by large numbers. So honestly, not. If you were doing a 1v1 against a dragon, dragon would kick your ass. But most groups are between 4 and 8. I guess 4 and 6 really, but like, my groups tend to go large. So I might have to throw 2 dragons at a group. Going back to the fake fight, if I want to challenge this group that sometimes is up to 9 players, I need to give this thing 2 heads, 500 hit points, and a much higher armor class, and also 1d4 ogre zombies. If I don't do that, they'll wipe the floor with this 2-headed dragon. And so that's something important to note, that, like, this is kind of seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak. But I have always found dragon fights to be very weak in this edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which is a little disappointing. But I did just get a new dragon book. It does give some advice on how to make dragons more dangerous. I might integrate that into some of this. So the answer to that is maybe, because old dragon fights were not so great and not so dangerous, not so fun, maybe because they're easy for what they're supposed to be. Maybe new dragon fights are more impressive. So I'm going to have to plumb the depths of that book and see what the new answer is. I hope that was a good answer and not just a bunch of nonsense. And in a related topic, does the difference between dragons and wyverns apply in D&D? As in, wyverns are actually killable and true dragons are super powerful creatures. Let me answer that by kind of writing this out. So, like, if I had a whiteboard, I would use a whiteboard. Dragon is a type. So a wyvern is a dragon. A true dragon is a dragon, but also powerful. So you get a wyvern, which is challenge 5. No, it's challenge 6 if I remember. That's a pretty good answer. Yeah, I get what you said perfectly. Awesome. Let's just call it an adult red dragon. Challenge 14 if I'm not mistaken. And that's just off the top of my head. In fact, let's look up these numbers so I'm not a goof. Because I would feel bad if I got the numbers wrong, because I'm supposed to be a little bit more knowledgeable about this stuff. But you know what? I always fall back on looking up the answer, because I'm ready to be wrong about something. Oof. Monsters. All right, adult red dragon is oof. So I was wrong about that. Challenge rating 17, and that's not even as powerful as they get. But let's go back. Come on now, and let's look up a wyvern. So wyvern is in fact challenge rating 6. 110 hit points. AC 13. So you just have to roll a 13 or higher to deal damage, or yeah, to successfully hit them. So looking at it in abject terms, a wyvern can deal somewhere between 30 and 40 points of damage each turn. And this is just math. Going back to the adult red dragon. Uh, 256 hit points, which is a little too precise if you ask me, but we'll ignore that for now. AC 19. And let's see, with legendary actions, can do, let's just say, let's see, so that is 36, 41, 51, no, yes, 66, and right around 100 damage per turn. If it gets to use its breath weapon, we're talking more like 115 damage. No. 18 damage per turn. So, in contrast, let's that's a type of red dragon. Is the like look at the difference in that. Like it's sturdier, it's harder to hit, it does way more damage. But then, just to give you an idea, you get wormling. There are wormling dragons. And you can imagine that this is like a baby red dragon. So AC 17, HP 75. So lower, like higher armor class, but lower hit points than the Wyvern. And then we're looking at damage output of about 48 on a good turn, or 12 on a bad turn. So, to give you an idea, a red dragon has many age categories that makes it potentially more powerful. You might be more likely to run into a younger red dragon that is not as scary and dangerous. Wyverns are kind of the same across the board. You get maybe like a baby wyvern, and then you get full-grown wyvern, which is this one that I have right here. And that's kind of it. Wyverns are maybe kind of a pedestrian dragon, whereas a red dragon is kind of like, this is the exemplar. This is the this is the template from which Tiamat has her red dragon head. So yeah, you've got your what they call chromatic dragons, your red, blue, white, green, black, and those are very potent dragons that have the potential to grow to be very old and very powerful. Whereas a wyvern is just kind of like, it is a dragon. It is born of like dragon kind, but it is not as innately dangerous. You get into all of these different weird things like wyverns, worms, what is it, drakes, gosh, there's another thing that I'm thinking of, linorms, sea serpents. And so, very Pokemon-like, these things are all dragons, but then you get to the kind of dragon that is like the master dragon, or like maybe the kind of the ideal dragon, let's call it. You also have metallic dragons, which are the quote-unquote good counterpart, and they are born from Bahamut. And you have silver, gold, copper, bronze, and what am I missing? Brass. And similarly, they are like the ideal quote-unquote good dragons, and they're about as powerful. A gold dragon, an ancient gold dragon, and an ancient red dragon are about on par, and they're both very dangerous and about as powerful as a demon lord. But yeah, that's a lot of numbers and a lot of math to just say what I tried to say. But yes, like a red dragon, a gold dragon, those are super powerful. Wyverns and drakes and sea serpents and so on, also dragons. Potential to be powerful, but maybe not necessarily as powerful as a true dragon. Not the endpoint potential power of a true dragon. Hopefully that answers your question. And hopefully I didn't just throw a bunch of math at you for silly reasons. Whew. But all right, we have been here quite a while. We did a lot of good planning. I think I have a lot of good, amazing ideas for what I want to do. And it's really funny, but like all of this stuff is things that I do on the fly, but like getting the nitty gritty in there is really what's worth it when writing it out. I might have come up with some of these ideas. That makes a lot of sense. I see where these concepts came out of now. Yeah. But let's see. And it's super helpful to write all of this stuff down, because then I get to like be a little bit more granulated, make a lot more connections. But to tie it to your question, so when Dungeons and Dragons was initially created, it was this stitching together of a lot of like mythologies and ideas and bestiaries and so on, to try and make one cohesive whole. And these things change depending on what setting you're playing, and they change depending on who's running the game. But for the most part, we have this kind of like weebly wobbly, timey wimey concept of what Dungeons and Dragons is, which kind of brings us together in this shared experience of what Dungeons and Dragons can be. And even if somebody else plays dragons as all evil, even if they're metallic, and somebody else makes dragons weaker than they normally are, we more or less come to the same conclusions, share the same stories about how we almost got eaten alive by a gelatinous cube, or how beholders are bullshit, or how you never expect a mimic until it is one. But these are all very fun things that just bring us together in, again, the shared experience that is Dungeons and Dragons. But there we go. Hopefully my sound was okay. I presume it was, because you were able to hear and interact with me. Hopefully this is of some use to someone that will listen to this after the fact. And hopefully this was fun for someone other than me and you, Looney, because I know I had a lot of fun, and it sounds like you did too. But I'm going to stop talking because I need to go get a snack. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there. And here we go. I run 8 games. And remember, I run games for you.